Whilst Resident Evil has a bevy of companies, organisations and corporations in its ongoing story of horror, mystery and espionage, there's none more recognisable than the Umbrella Corporation. It's not technically the logo of the series, but a quick Google would show that plenty of people think otherwise. The red and white octagon is perhaps the thing that screams Resident Evil the most to people all over the world, and today it's still known as the face of all the evils in the series, even a decade after the company's in-story shutdown. So when Resident Evil 7 ended with a shot of a helicopter with a blue Umbrella logo on it, everybody was like, WTF mate? In the 3 years following, we've had plenty of answers, although most of these have been tucked away in supplemental materials or the maligned Umbrella Corps. Let's bring all of that together. This is Sai for First Aid Spray, and today we're going to answer the question, what is Blue Umbrella? First of all, as with all of our lore videos, we wanted to shout out the Resident Evil podcast, their website and the timeline put together by the Batman that collates all of this great information. Check that out if you haven't, and now, on with the video. To talk about this subject, we need to go right back to 1998 and the moment where Albert Wesker reveals to his former star squad mates that he's been working his own agenda this whole time. Not only was Wesker on the inside of things with Umbrella, he was also working this company in his own way too, with plans to sell combat data he'd gathered from them to one of their competitors, only ever really referred to as the rival company. It was Albert's vision and obsession that bioweapons were the future of warfare, foreseeing a time when not only would controlled BOWs negate the use of conventional firearms in battle, but eventually be programmable with complicated tactics and strategies, replacing infantry entirely. However, whilst he had full confidence in his idea, he also knew that organisations and countries that were to go into battle against these new bioorganic weapons would need anti-bioorganic procedures and technology to fight off this new threat, and he began various trials and experiments to create just that. The ultimate plan being that he could play every side and stand at the top of it all as superior to his fellow man. All those smarts, and he still wore sunglasses at night. What a total scumbag. This vision was never divulged to Umbrella nor the rival company, and they were all just pawns in Wesker's grand game of chess. By some stroke of chance, not long after the collapse of the original Umbrella, a group of employees not affiliated with the company's dark side began to make movements to try to repair Umbrella's public image by building their own version of the corporation. Either through an alias or a trusted advisor, Wesker reached out to these people and they began to work together. Gone would be the facade of pharmaceuticals. The new business model was to be an anti-BOW private military that would face down the horrors that Umbrella had helped to create, whilst Wesker meanwhile could play every side and reshape the world in his image. After years of legal battles and red tape, Umbrella was ready to be reborn. However, Wesker was declared dead in 2006 whilst he was off gallivanting with his father figure's obsession with playing with flowers, and the new Umbrella would be left without someone to sit at the top of the table, and so the company forged on without him. By 2007, Umbrella was described as in pre-confirmation, and it was the duty of the new company to prove to the courts and the general public that they were intent on fighting back against the evils that their colleagues had unleashed in the late 90s. It was at this time that they chose to tweak the company image, transforming the logo and the name into Blue Umbrella. Several sanctions were imposed upon them by the United Nations before they could even begin to work, the main one being an agreement that Blue Umbrella's PMC should have no paramilitary of its own, and instead its resources were better spent assisting others, such as the BSAA, an organisation whose budgets had been growing exponentially every year due to the price of battling increasingly more complex BOWs that were being developed over time. Naturally, the BSAA had their own concerns about working with a company with the name Umbrella. In 2009, Albert Wesker was declared dead. Yes, again, but only this time in a much more real, much more fiery way, and the seizing of his assets and data led to the discovery of several pieces of interesting anti-BOW technologies. These were handed down to Blue Umbrella and would go on to be the basis for the Albert Systems weapons series. These highly successful weapons were used by the company's new BSAA allies to much praise, and, in an ironic twist of fate, Wesker's development strengthened that partnership and improved Blue Umbrella's general standing on the world stage. However, though on the surface the dark reputation was being forgiven, Wesker's closest followers within the company had begun work on the other side of the plan, the development of new BOWs and the formation of something called Umbrella Corps. No, not the terrible game that scarred many of us for life, but rather a military group that went against UN orders and wore a familiarly evil red and white logo to match. By 2011, Umbrella Corps was run by a mysterious man who'd been close to Wesker before his death and shared many of his ideas and his ideals, and also his voice actor.
Guts and determination. Good show.
He oversaw a series of tests simply called the Experiments, which would see mercenaries from all different, similarly illegal groups take part in trials that pit them with Blue Umbrella weaponry against BOWs and Plagas in a variety of locations. They were largely expected to fail, and very rarely would an exceptional survivor outlast every mission. One of these men was a mercenary codenamed 3A7, who survived via the use of close quarters quarantine battle zone techniques and technology such as the zombie jammer. The jammer was such a success that it was put into production and sold to one of Umbrella's sponsors, Shenyar Pharmaceuticals. Meanwhile, in 2017, the Blue Umbrella that was working above ground and above board finished their Chapter 11 court proceeding and were considered to have entered their post-confirmation phase. Accepted by the UN and the BSAA, they also founded a system known as the Special Cases Disposal Team to get around the United Nations PMC ruling, composed of voluntary BSAA advisors that were equipped with the latest Blue Umbrella developments. The standard issue firearms for these soldiers were from the Umbrella Arsenal system, the Albert 01 Samurai Edge, yes, the handgun from the end of RE7 that is so powerful it acts as the game's equivalent to the classic rocket launcher, and the Albert 02 Thor's Hammer shotgun. In the July of 2017, Blue Umbrella began monitoring an estate in Louisiana that they believed held an extremely dangerous BOW. The E-type mutamycete was the latest experimentation produced by a company called The Connections. Umbrella's earliest dealings with the Connections go way back. In fact, the rival company, who were part of the formation of Blue Umbrella lest we forget, had even worked with the Connections in the early 2000s upon their discovery of the mutamycete superorganism. When it was clear that the BOW was indeed in the bio of Dolby, Blue Umbrella launched Operation Lurking Fear and sent Special Cases Disposal teams down to tackle it. The BSAA's Chris Redfield was assigned as a major part of this operation, though he was very resistant to be working alongside Blue Umbrella despite their post-confirmation status due to his very personal history with them. The mission was a success. Redfield put a stop to Lucas Baker and his plans to send mutamycete data to one of the Connection's competitors. However, the dark underbelly of Blue Umbrella, Umbrella Corps, scooped up the data for themselves, as well as various samples for their own BOW research. At the time of speaking, that's all we know about Blue Umbrella and the duality of the company. On the surface, a reformed version of the corporation that began the biological arms race of the series, working alongside anti-terrorism units, and underneath something much more sinister. What do you think is in store for the future of Blue Umbrella? What did you think of this video? And what other parts of the lore would you like to see us cover next? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with all that we do. I've been Sai, and have a good week.